Hey, folks! Thank you for stopping by Kaiser's Castle. Take a seat on my big orange couch. Grab yourself a coffee, tea, soda, or adult libation. Today we've got a round table. You know, after swimming with the beavers and taking ice cold baths, we've all decided to talk, I don't know, maybe bubble baths. But the more important thing we'll talk about is the nefarious deeds of the deep state using coronavirus as a vector to try to destabilize governments. And with that being said, I'll introduce you to the panel today. One is our favorite guest from the UK, coming live from the UK, Baz. And our second favorite guest, which is equal with Baz, it's not really second, but in line of succession, is the superstar Kate. And we're going to talk about a little bit of deep diving into the deep state, doing nefarious deeds with the coronavirus. How's it going today, Baz?
Not so bad, buddy. But you've got me about 9,000 miles mislocated there, brother.
Yeah. No. Keep your location. Hey, come on now.
Obviously, I'm not going to identify my location.
Anyway,
upsec, but it's a big place. It's a big place down here. Not so bad, brother. Just trying to keep above the craziness. Not so bad down here, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
Not as crazy as it is in the northern hemisphere. That's all I'll say on that.
Yep. And Kate, yourself, how's life happening with you?
What's happening? I'm still here, which is good.
Yep.
Just getting over influenza A, which does not feel so good whenever you have the flu, and it's not coronavirus, so I'm happy about that. So I've been reactivated to go back to work, which I'm not too happy about. But hey, somebody's got to do the work, so it's got to be me.
Exactly. And after last weekend, I could use a break. Just in the show, after going balls deep into icy creek water that was in my basement. Hell yeah, I know what shrivel feels like when your balls are in your throat. So here we go. Let's Baz wanted to touch on this. We can go as lightly or as deep as you want on the coronavirus being a vector to destabilize nation states, and I think we're seeing that at this point. When you see, I can't think of her name, Bricks or something like that, the doctor that's been on the past couple days. I can't think of her last name. I think it's Bricks, Brix. Might be something else. If one of you can look up her last name, but she's been on and she's now questioning the actual numbers, i.e. percentages, and it's coming out to be less than 1% of a population, and not the scaremonger, fear porn that the press has been putting out. And it kind of makes sense now after seeing how Congress has used this as a power play to get more people sucking on the tit, just like Obamacare and all the other stuff that they put through. Pelosi is proving herself to be the human being that she is. Your guys' thoughts, honestly?
I've been sort of outside the loop on the old American politics for obvious reasons, mate, so I couldn't comment. I'll leave this one to Kate.
First of all, with Chef's introduction, and he mentioned his testicles being up to his throat. I've never had that experience myself, so I cannot relate.
But to be honest, it's not the first time he got balls in his throat, though, is it? It just happened to be his this time.
Well, there you go.
Listen to Baz. Listen to Baz talking about me teabagging when he's the original teabagger from the UK. Okay.
is confirmed, I don't think that she's a human being. I think she's a Satan's spawn. And I do not say that with tongue-in-cheek or say that lightly. I cannot stand the woman, if that's what she is. But the congressional doctors expect between 70 million to 150 million people in the United States will contract the coronavirus. And I agree with whoever this other doctor is with different numbers. I do not believe it's going to be that high, nor do I believe that President Trump is being fed the proper intel whenever he is being briefed. I think this is all for fear-mongering, and this is a precursor to whatever is going to be happening in the fall. Chef, back to you.
I have to agree with you. I concur on this.
He's got balls in his throat.
Fuck off. I just had myself muted on Skype. I was answering you, cockswell. Anyways, you've heard about...
we didn't hear...
I know I had myself muted on Skype. It's my fault. I muted both. Anyway, so the point is, here's the part that I agree with you wholeheartedly. I started my comment by saying this, Kate. I agree with you wholeheartedly and with her. The numbers aren't adding up. You have several places that have had major outbreaks, but that's from kids being morons. One, New York State, in the city itself, they had their little celebration of the Chinese Lunar New Year. And, of course, de Blasio, the mayor there, said, yeah, going out. And the media was downplaying it while Trump was, they were trying to undermine him. And we've seen this now. I'm not saying it's not a problem. I'm not going to say that. That would be moronic. It is a problem. But the problem, as I see it, is they downplayed it. Then they caused everybody to be morons and run to the stores. That's a whole different topic we can get into maybe later on what I saw. And so did everybody at the local Kroger's in my town. It was absolutely hilarious when they were taking, people coming in buying toilet paper and stuff. And I started going in there a couple times a day to see friends of mine who work there. As everybody who's ever been to Kaiser's Castle knows, I'm on a first-name basis with those people because we shop daily. We'll go in there and get, some bread or whatever we're going to cook for the day. We just cook fresh. And the point is, I started seeing county numbers that weren't our county. They weren't from our county. They were from Columbus, Springfield, and Dayton. And you start seeing that in your local store. And then I had a meat cutter who works there, really good dude. He was like, yeah, man, when this first started, there was some idiot that came in. He was from the north side of Columbus because a guy confronted him. He's on his phone telling his friend, yeah, call everybody, and I'm going to make more calls. This London Kroger got everything. It's got toilet paper, it's got all this. And he goes, where are you from? North side of Columbus. Oh, is that it? Well, you better call everybody back and tell them not to come here. And they're all in agreement. If the morons from out of our fucking county did not come to our Kroger, we would not be short on shit. Because everybody, if they shopped normally, there wouldn't be, this shortage of paper. I mean, we're back on water. Everything's fine. The problem is they blew out the paper products. So, it's not like, we're basic. We've talked about this before. My wife and I have, our basic stuff. We buy certain things and have on hand. So we're not worried about that. But it's sad when you see old people walking around looking down the paper aisle and they're like, they're shopping as they need it. And these people can't get shit roll. They can't get paper towels. And then with the flood thing, luckily we had a stockpile of paper towels. So, and bleach, that's another thing. Just mind-numbing bullshit that people just hoarded for no fucking reason. I could see hand sanitizer maybe blowing off the shelves, but what are you going to do with shit roll? You just going to use that as Kleenex? You know, it doesn't make sense. And your guys' thoughts, and both of you can comment on that.
Yeah, like I say, we touched on it at length on the last show that we did, and it had spread like wildfire because it was just panic. One sort of town saw another town doing it, and another town saw a big city doing it. So everybody thought we need to do that. And you hit the nail on the head there, where there was like the elderly going into these places who were at risk anyway because of coronavirus. You know, obviously the mortality rate in older people is a lot more than the younger people, but it was the younger people that were fucking crisis buying 30 packs of fucking 4 packs of toilet roll, and you're like, it's not a shitting disease. You don't shit yourself fucking 6 times a day. It's like an influenza type disease. I'm not saying it is the flu because obviously it's more serious than that. But the fact is, you still don't need 80 fucking toilet rolls for a 2-week period. I couldn't get my head around it. And it was just people crisis buying for crisis buying sakes. I saw it with my own eyes. I saw people going into the supermarket, seeing that there was absolutely fuck all there, then just going, okay, what can a crisis buy now? I tell you what, there's tomato ketchup. There was somebody with like a shopping trolley with like 15 things of tomato ketchup in. I'm like, are you going to drink that? You daft cunt. You know, I couldn't get my head around it. It's just like there's nothing to buy, so I need to crisis buy something else. People buying like 9 bags of salt. Why? Are you going to sit and eat salt with a spoon? You know, you can fill your boots doing that, and all you're going to do is die. Your body will just pile in. So yeah, it was craziness. It was there was no need for it, and it's only now the supermarkets and the stores are sort of equalising. I mean, they're still struggling to get certain items in some places, but I've seen pictures today that somebody sent me from the UK of instead of that big clusterfuck at the front doors now that there was a couple of weeks ago or a week ago even, you know, where it was just a high to spread the virus. There's now an actual really long queue going all the way out and around the car park, and there's just people standing 2 meters apart with their shopping trolleys, and they're letting 20 or 30 people in at a time, you know, so it's not too crowded. You can respect people's personal space and the 2 meter rule and all that stuff. And it's working. People are sort of, I think it's the society's been shamed, you know, by not just by social media, by people actually calling people out and taking pictures of people, putting it on Facebook, like, look at this cunt. There's him and his wife, both, you can tell the type of person they are, that they live off shit food. You know what I mean? They spend all the money on tobacco and fucking alcohol. The kids go hungry and just eat ramen all day, and there they are with 40 packs of toilet roll, nearly 300 toilet rolls, you know. And it's those people that were named and shamed, you know, and it's sort of brought people back down to earth. I don't need to act like a penis when I go shopping. If I don't act like a penis, then the person next to me is not going to act like a penis. So when I come back in 3 days because I need eggs because I've forgotten them, there'll be some eggs there because people are being more respectful nowadays, and there is more of a sense of community, especially when you go into lockdown. Now, with the UK, they have actually put a lockdown in place. People are being fined £30 for being out unnecessarily. There's still fucking dickheads about that are having gatherings in parks and stuff like that, but the police are pretty quick to move them along. Or people, again, are taking pictures and just outing them on social media. Look at these dickheads think it's okay to have a barbecue in the park because the sun's out. But with the lockdown, you've seen some of that old... and what I can compare it to, well, not personally, but what I can compare it to is like it was in the Blitz in London, where there was a sense of community, people helping each other out a bit more. And that's what we're seeing in the UK now, especially when it comes down to sort of like our NHS staff, our healthcare staff. They're the unsung heroes in this at the minute. And then they're not getting 10 minutes a day to go and do their shopping because they're either in work, helping the sick and the poorly, or they're at home resting and doing the shit that they need to do at home if they've got children, if they've got families. So, you know, there's people helping them out, people taking them food, and along with all the other first responders and people like truck drivers and all that. So there is a sense of community being sort of reborn again, especially in the UK. I couldn't comment what it's like in the US because you're a bigger nation. And again, you will have communities like where you're from, where there is that sense of community anywhere, but then there'll be parts of the US, like there is in the UK, where there is absolute penises still hanging around, coughing in people's faces, licking toilet seats and the like. Your thoughts, Kate?
Well, two things. My biggest question is, what is going on behind the scenes that this quote virus unquote is causing so much chaos? What is really going on behind the scenes that our attention is placed on this virus that we are not watching behind the scenes? That something big is going down, something big is happening. That I do not know if it's to take away our rights in the United States or if it's a worldwide thing. Obviously, something's going on worldwide. But if you look at the second thing is, if you look at the statistics of what is going on with this so-called virus, is yes, the virus is real. I know people and I have friends and my nephew got the virus. But it was just like having the flu, they said. Other than it was in their lungs and they couldn't breathe and they're okay now. I have not had anyone pass away that's close to me from the virus. But if you look at the statistics on this, most of the cases that have happened have been like in Italy or China, where everybody is basically piled up on top of each other. For example, New York City. Everyone is living so close to each other. Apartment and condos right next to each other, where they're literally living on top of each other. So if one person gets the flu or a virus or a bacterial situation, it will spread quickly. But if you look into the most rural and suburban cities and towns, the statistics are not that high. Your thoughts, Mr. Shuffy? Or Baz, whoever?
I agree.
Go on.
Okay, I agree with your comments, both of you. And there is a sense of community. I mean, when I've done it, people at our market are starting to do it. There were two ladies I happened to be going through, and when after the flood, there was, I had to get a couple rolls of paper towels. But instead, what they had was these, they're made by Scott Bright. They're reusable towels for cleaning, lots of bleach. You know what you have to do after you have a flood. And had to get a new mop. Yeah. And these ladies are like, oh, you have paper towels? And they're not really paper towels. They're Scott Bright towels. They're more expensive. And I'm like, yeah, they have them down this aisle, ma'am. They're older ladies. And swear to God, they bought every one of them up. And our clerks are like, ma'am, ladies, you can each buy two. That's it. And we're starting to see, and then as I was walking out, I was cashing out, and they had cashed out about the same time. Their plates were from Franklin County, Columbus, Ohio. And you're right. It is about community stepping up. Just like I said, the butcher told that guy, you're not from around here, so quit telling people to come here and clean out our shelves. The manager, Bob, the butcher, all these people, they're like, we had enough for our own town. It was the morons from outside of our town. And so there is a more increased sense of community within our town. Because you know people who shop there regularly. You see the faces. Yeah, we're a small enough town, 14K. We know everybody in the town. They know us. And it's the same thing that when I grew up, I talked about this on a show with somebody. It was Giorgio's, I believe. Where if in Columbus, Ohio, the capital city, when I grew up, that's where I grew up at, besides Cleveland when I was a younger kid. The interesting thing is, if you fucked up on the north, south, east, or west side of Columbus, and I'm a west sider, went to Westland High School, the interesting thing was, by the time you got home, your mother, well, me being a bastard, my mother had already gotten a call that I fucked up. And she'd be waiting there. So, I got a call. You did this there in this place. Yeah, how'd you know? Because I got a call. And Columbus used to be called the largest small town in America. And we had like 100 and some odd thousand people that lived in Columbus. Well, after we got gifted 60,000 Somalians under Clinton, because Columbus didn't vote the right way for Clinton, and then it just poured in. The West Side now, you'll see everything written in either Arabic or Spanish at the shops because of this bullshit. And, we used to call each other hillbillies and brobillies. You had the blacks and the whites, and we were all billies. You know what I'm saying? But I think I have to take what Kate said very seriously. The Russians, the Chinese, all of our enemies, and me being, who I am and what I am, I'm intimately familiar with communists, and I understand them more than most. And the fact remains, to me, that these nations are taking a nice look at how, and I've talked about it with both you, and I've talked about it with just about everybody I've ever had, that thin veneer of civility, that curtain that's so thin that a breath can take it away. And if you don't think they're going to try to use this in a different way to lever our society, and Kate, you're exactly right, even our own communists in our own country are doing that with the communists in charge of cities, mayors, and governors, saying, oh, we're going to limit your ability. In Los Angeles is a prime example. They say you can't buy guns now. Wait, now you're blatantly infringing on the Second Amendment. These are issues. And I think the American people need to understand. I was talking with a brother of mine who still works for my first agency. And we were talking last night, and he's deployed somewhere south the border. That's all I'll say about him. Great guy. Served with him in the Marine Corps. He's doing some good work, and that's all I'll say on that. But we talked about this in depth last night. And I think we're all seeing a trend. And I have to say that there is something afoot. I can't put my finger on it. And I think everybody within the community is seeing this. That this is could be life-changing for us in the West. And that's all I'll say on that.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, it's certainly been used or adopted by certain governments, and it's not one government, it's governments all over the world. Now's the time to start doing the stuff that they can't do in the public eye. But there's two sides to the story on this one. Like, you look at 9/11. When 9/11 happened, the following day, like I said on the last show, when people were still holding hands, crying and singing songs, because the nation was in grief. Well, the world was in grief, but the nation itself, the United States, was in grief. No one could believe that this had happened. It was a good time, and even some of your senators and government members had mentioned now's a good time to bury shit. You know what I mean, or make shit go away. Like the defense deficit of trillions of dollars, and this is going to be the same. Governments are going to use this to air things or get things done or get things out of the way that they normally couldn't be seen doing or couldn't do without raising some kind of uproar. And there is sort of agencies and people behind the scenes making things happen. And all you've got to look at in the Vatican, a load of priests have been arrested from the Vatican for crimes against humanity. But everybody's so wrapped up in this corona thing that it's not been really high. It's just like a footnote of your news. If you go on, like you say, your phone or a laptop or a computer and you click on news, it's corona, then some fucking A-list or Z-list celebrity crying in a mansion because they're having to go through a 14-day quarantine in a multi-million-pound mansion. Then at the very bottom, it's by the way, there's a load of these Vatican priests have been arrested for crimes against humanity. No one's giving a fuck because too busy wrapped up with their own lives and what's going on in the communities. And that's just what's been publicised. That's what's been publicised. I used to say that the Pope hasn't been lifted as well. You know what I mean? It's good time to get things done.
The Pope.
I think that was one of the main reasons that we were doing. Go on, bro.
The Pope is a Jesuit, and if you look at the Vatican, where they have little. Back during the day, he put the painter, I can't think of his name, put these gold frames, gold filigree frames. And the final pope is this pope, and he happens to be a Jesuit. That should concern people, because the Jesuit order has always been very communist friendly, and just in their way of thinking. So sorry to interrupt you, but and by the way, that's the last frame that thank you for saying that, Kate. Michelangelo painted. And so the conspiracy theorist will have a heyday on this. And you may see the end of Catholicism over this. And I don't want to see that. I'm not a Catholic. But I think all religions, unfortunately, a buddy of mine who was a Swiss dude, one of the Swiss guards in the Vatican embassy somewhere, but also had worked in the Vatican area. He said the world's largest pornography collection is in Vatican City because they had to see what was pornography to be able to, and they've got this shit cataloged. There's a librarian.
It's my hard drive.
Yeah, it's your hard drive, basically. A lot of dog porn, a lot of fucking horse porn. Who knows what the fuck you got on yours, fucker? But anyways, go on, brother. I thought that was apropos to talk about, dickhead.
Yeah.
I'm gonna interrupt you both. You both know what I do as my second job, and so that's kind of the porn industry and the sex trafficking and stuff like that is near and dear to my heart to stop it. With that being said, I do not believe that it is all of that. I believe that is part of it, of what is going on. But what people are overlooking is you have one representative from 127 countries of this world, one representative each, are coming around and saying, we want a one world government to take care of this sort of virus.
I agree.
That is overwhelming. 127 nations, including the United States. Now, it is not President Trump. It is a couple of our elected officials that are calling for this. Well, if you scream and yell and say something loud enough and long enough, even though most people ignore it, in other people's eyes, it becomes true.
Well, people forget.
That doesn't mean that it's...
People forget that after 9/11, Kate,
Go ahead.
And I know you know this intimately, just like I do, Joe Biden is actually the drafter of the Patriot Act, and it was done under Rex 84. Because I was in the military, and I think you were still in, maybe Kate, I can't remember, and not trying to get into your business, so you don't have to say whether you were still or not. But the point is, Rex 87 or 84 was put in and implemented, and then you had, trial runs under Obama that people always forget about, different things, operations that happened within CONUS, continental United States, that were absolutely bizarro world. You wouldn't have thought they would happen. But the Patriot Act normalized these. And under Bush Sr., we can't never forget that he used special ops against Americans at a certain church down in Texas, Waco, and he also used special ops against, a guy they disbelieved in, because he wrote for Soldier of Fortune. I actually met the guy, Randy. And when the Weavers' 14-year-old son and his wife Vicky were killed, it wasn't ATF, DEA, it was Spec Ops dudes that were behind the trigger. And it's just a fact. But
follow the pattern.
It is a pattern. I agree. Patterns. And Biden wrote the Patriot Act for Rex 84, and they waited for an event. 9/11 was that event, and that's why the next fucking day after they cleared $4 billion $4 trillion of DOD from Defense Finance Accounting Center, cleared that off the books because of it, because the Pentagon happened to get hit in that computer area. And the day before, Rummy was talking about this missing money. And then we have 9/11. That goes away. Nobody's talking about that missing money. And then Rex 84 was basically implemented. And the author was Joseph Biden. And look who's running now. Senile old Joe.
Pedo Joe.
People need to wake up. We are living in a time of our lives that we thought about that we were going to have to defend, but was hoping that it would not come to pass. We are watching things happen underneath our eyes, and there's not anything we can do about it. We can't fight back. We can talk about it, but who's listening?
I always go back to the adage.
Exactly.
Okay, guys.
I always go back to who will watch the Watchmen. You know where I'm going with this, Kate, as a PHU member. And yep. I've always said, I will, I do, and I can. And I also live by the other adage that the right man at the right time can, will, and always makes the difference. And I'm not talking about it in a violent, weird way or something. I'm talking about voices. I'm talking about getting the message out. If things have to be done, they have to be done when they have to be done, but not before. And that's the difference. And being able to discern that, that's why governments took control of militaries. It was always the English company, God bless England, the English companies after the Middle Ages are the reason for the Renaissance. And nation states didn't control those companies. Those companies went out, and that's why Mercs have a bad... they try to say it has a bad tinage to it, and yet every wealthy motherfucker went out and bought them because they realized security is a needed thing. And I praise my trade, and I will always praise it, and I thank God for it, that it exists, because it is the one thing nation states decided they needed to control the militaries. And our sense of military is maybe a little over 150 years old, where nation states had their own armies. This is not the norm. And it all boils down to control. And the lack of control they don't like. And I like being uncontrollable. Your guys' thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, it's there's always the voice of dissent, isn't there? And it comes on both sides. But when, like you were saying, Kate, governments now are doing things, and because of the current environment, basically people sitting at home, locked in the home, worrying for the safety, or more like the health of and well-being of their families, they're more susceptible to just accept things because I don't care about that at the minute. All I want is to be healthy, my children to be healthy, my wife, my daughter, my dog, my nan, my gran, my mum, my dad. We just want them to be healthy. We don't care what you're doing. Just do what you need to do. I'm not bothered. So the society as a whole at the minute is more susceptible to accepting things that usually we wouldn't, like the Second Amendment sort of breaches in California. Let's be honest, most of the nation is more involved with, again, whether they're going to get shit roll tomorrow, whether they can buy pasta because food's running out, or whatever. So they're not really bothered that a bunch of a few Californians can't buy a handgun or a rifle or whatever. Again, there is those staunch sort of Second Amendment supporters, like all of us are, that are just going, no, this is blatantly exploiting the situation to force these things through. And once they're through, it's pretty hard to sort of take back what's been done, undo what's been done. It's happening all over the world, but for good and bad reasons. Again, like this swoop down on these Vatican priests, and no doubt that the crimes against humanity are crimes against children and of vulnerable people, and I'm glad that that's happened. But again, that's just one instance out of probably 1,000 that are actually good and not the actual nefarious. But what people are forgetting now is society now has nothing fucking better to do than sit down, make a little hat out of aluminium foil or aluminum, if you want to put it in US terms, and sit on the internet and join chat rooms and wonder about what the actual fuck is going on behind the scenes that most people would never think about because they're too tied up in taking the kids to school, going shopping, going to work, going to the gym, walking a dog, fucking yada, 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 normal life shit that we're no longer able to do because of lockdowns. So the only thing that people have got now is either trying to control children, but those that don't have children locked up in a house have got Netflix and the fucking internet, and that's pretty much it. So a lot more people are getting involved with actually looking at certain things, and you can see chat rooms are just exploding with people, and I'm talking chat rooms that are not usually on the vanilla internet, as they'll call it, the Facebook crap. So it's quite interesting to see what's being said in other sort of chat groups. Your thoughts?
I find it interesting, and Kate, I want to hear your thoughts on this. Here's how I think about things right now. I find it very interesting that I'm seeing within my community, and I think in the communities like I'm on Belgab, different places, BFC, Black Flag Cafe, different places that I normally tend to check out information. Not that I post there, but the interesting point is I see these things, and more people are thinking about the we, not the me. And I definitely want to hear your take on that, Kate, because I've seen some focus like that, just like Baz was saying, and I do find that interesting at this time.
My thoughts. There are a lot of people coming together, and I think that that's awesome because that's what America is, and that's what the world is about, and that's what the world is doing. I see it close to home, and I see it in other countries far and wide. What I am noticing is just like you guys are saying, the lack of noticing anything else going on in the world other than the coronavirus or this quote virus unquote, which I don't think is a virus. I think it's bacterial, but that's my opinion, and no one wants to listen to it. So anyway, with that being said, When does the flu season hit the United States? The flu hits the United States in the spring and in the fall. We are already at our limit, or our term limit, as you could say, for a flu virus. So I would say probably end of May, first part of June, we're going to get a respite, or a respite, depending on who you talk to and what part of the country. And the coronavirus is only going to be hitting 1,000 or 2,000 people. Well, that sounds like a lot of people, but not when you consider how many people live in the United States. The virus is going to subside, in my opinion, this is just my opinion, is going to subside and give us a break until the fall. And I would say around mid-October to mid-February or March, we are going to be hit again, only it's going to be harder. I believe, and again, this is just my opinion, I believe that this bout that just hit us is a precursor for what is getting ready to hit us again, and the powers that be are watching the response of the people and how they can control the people in the future. I'm not just talking butt wipe from the grocery store or whatever. I'm talking their emotional responses, because people aren't controlled by their money, although that is part of some things, but people are controlled by emotion. If you can control their emotion, you have them. And right now, people are emotional. They're looking for answers, and the only answers they're getting are pseudo answers that they want to claim as fact. If you take those pseudo answers and you lined it up with history, what we're going through is nothing new. This is not new, guys.
I agree. Nothing.
But let's not allow history to repeat itself.
I agree, Kate. Wiser words have never been said. For those biblical people that always want to see, everything in Bible terms, you're now having a push from the U.S. government now, and this is unique, to make a digital currency. What you'll see with that is that's a way to hide governmental theft. And there's always been that problem of the mark of the beast. And, this is for those that are Christians and believe in this, and the Muslims who believe it's almost inverse the way they believe in the end times. Because they believe that when the Twelvers, to be very clear, they believe when the Mahdi returns, he actually will have Jesus help him cut heads off the unbelievers of Islam. It's totally inverse to what Christianity believes. And same with not just the Twelvers, but you have segments of the Salafist and also with the Wahhabists that believe this as fact. And unfortunately, I was taken off focusing on communist and had to dive deep into Mohammedans, and whatever, it is what it is. It's a life, but you don't forget things you experience and you've talked with people about, and if they're of certain importance. I just don't see this as being good for anybody, and people can disagree with me, and that's fair play. I'm not trying to act like I know everything, because goddamn, you guys know more than anybody. I'm not a know-it-all, but I'm always able to listen to other people and take their input, and hopefully I can give somewhat of a valued input when needed. but I do see certain things. I don't know if I want to say a culmination. I don't. If it's a merger of weirdness that's happening accidentally or on purpose. I don't believe in accidents. You know that. I believe there is no coincidence, and I also know that they will always use the powers that be will always use a problem to their advantage, and that's all I really have to say on that, Kate. And I mean, definitely keep flowing. I think Baz is off for a couple minutes.
I'm back in no.
Okay, Baz and Kate. Let Kate finish her thought, because I think I interrupted her thought, and then
I was done.
Okay.
No, I was done. Baz, on you.
Yeah, like I say, and the biggest weapon that they're using nowadays is, and I've said it 1,000 times, and I'll come to you say it 1,000 more on your shows and when I'm speaking to people, is social media. It's the communication of the common man across the globe. It's not the BBC, it's not CNBC, it's not whatever, it's not Al Jazeera. Facebook is the main media of the entire world. You know, there is no varying or different types of Facebook. It is Facebook, and it's where 99% of the world get their news from. Now, we all know that 99% of Facebook is actually bullshit, but again, like you said earlier, Kate, if you scream it loud enough and then more people scream it, it becomes fact. And you can see that people's lives are ruined because of a photograph. That photograph might have been taken 5 years ago. Like if you remember when this Wuhan, what was called the Wuhan virus, came about, this before it was actually named COVID-19. There was a video going around Facebook, and it was like, it just said Wuhan food mark, and it had all these like different exotic animals that were being eaten by these people. And this video was from 2007 in Indonesia, but because it was shared that many times, millions of times, and because it had the words Wuhan street market on it, it became fact. You know, and
exactly.
It's let's be honest, it would be very naive to think that the government isn't using this as a way to get things out there, is to just, again, with the fog of war, it's you've got all this bullshit flying around and someone throws a fact into the mix, and then it's like when the dust settle and the half-life of this fallout sort of starts to settle, it'll just be, yeah, we mentioned that 2 years ago. We passed this law 2 years ago. Nobody fought it, or nobody did this, or nobody kicked up a fuss. Again, because we all became COVID zombies. We're all looking at the death tolls of our nations, the death tolls of our towns, our cities, our communities, our streets, our family. You know what I mean? That was where our attention was at the minute. You know, and again, it's like the magician. It's all sleight of hand. You're looking at this hand while this hand's pulling a rabbit out of the hat or something like that. He's hiding the coin from under the cup into his pocket, but you're not paying attention. And that's what's going to be happening massively. But on the flip side to that, what I want to add to this conversation is the good things that will come out of COVID-19. And there's not many, but what will happen, it'll give certain, let's be honest, there's certain organisations within our nation that aren't nefarious. You know, I'll speak as an Englishman, as a Britishman, as a Brit, as a Limey. It goes to show how precariously manned and supported and funded our national health services, because this has just pushed it to the limits, to the beyond breaking point. And I don't know how our healthcare professionals are dealing with it, and they are fucking heroes at the end of the day. But it just goes to show that we can't pay lip service to it. What one Chinese person's died of 2 months ago has now brought the world to a fucking standstill. You know, we've got it in this head that, you know what I mean, that it doesn't matter, it's not us. You know, the military industrial complex that is the United States. No one can touch us. We're the world's only superpower. boom, there's fucking coronavirus, something you can't even see, has brought your country into a recession. It's not war. You know what I mean?
It's a bioweapon.
It's not so. Go on. Yeah, but again, I don't believe it to be. When it was first released, I don't think it was a bioweapon. When I say bioweapon, I'm saying used as a bioweapon.
I think it was an accident.
I legitimately think it was an accident.
I think it was an accident.
Yes, but then has been adopted as a bioweapon. You know, it's and you look how each nation across the globe is reacting to it. Italy. The reason why I was mentioning this to someone, to a mutual friend of ours, Shuffy, while we were on the beach this morning, and I basically said, look, the reason why it's spreading so fast around these sort of like European communities, like Italy, is the way they greet people. They're very sort of warm, open, and friendly in the way that they greet people. They kiss people 2 or 3 times on the cheek. Boom, there you go. There's a bit of coronavirus. Hello, there's my coronavirus. And again, because of its incubation period, nobody's noticing. So it's just getting spread and spread and spread and spread. It's the same in other places, where then you look somewhere like Russia, where Putin basically said, look, you can spend 15 days in your house or 5 years in prison. It's your fucking choice. And people are going, okay, then I'm just going to go home for 15 days because I don't fancy breaking rocks in a Siberian gulag for 5 years or getting raped every day for 5 years, you know, in one of these prisons. So again, but miraculously, North Korea hasn't had a single outbreak because of the day leader. Not that all these people that are getting it are just shoveled into a big pit and blown up, probably. But again, it's just strange how different nations are reacting to it. But I think I'm digressing. What we need to go back to is the good points that are going to come out of COVID. We as a species realise that we are not, let's be honest, the dominant fucking thing on this planet. As something so small that can't be even seen can be cut from a bat or a chicken or a pig or whatever you want to say it's come from. But again, because of our dependency on modern drugs, our dependency on antibiotics, something that can normally be eradicated has mutated to the point where it has to be. It's just evolution. You know what I mean? Like smallpox now, a lot of people are vaccinated against smallpox. The plague now, there's instances of plague outbreaks in places like Africa, but it's nowhere near as big as it was because of antibiotics. So the viruses that now are so fast acting, as fast mutations, it's so difficult to keep up with. Like there's 2 strains of this COVID virus already. Again, that's sort of down Kate's sort of avenue of expertise.
I'm
it's just.
going to say something that a lot of people do not want to research out, but I encourage everyone to get online, Google search or Bing search or whatever search engine you use, formula of the 4 thieves. And I'm going to tell a little story. And this is a true story. Back in the bubonic plague, back when people were dying and sick, just like is going on right now, the bubonic plague was killing everybody. And these 4 brothers were robbing every home that had the plague, and they weren't getting sick. But when they were captured, the authorities told them that they would not prosecute them, kill them, execute them, etc., if they told the authorities what their secret was. And what their secret was this formula. Their mother made this formula of apple cider vinegar and garlic. 3 cloves of garlic, people, is equivalent to 1 adult dosage of penicillin.
Well,
So with that being said, there you have it.
Well, they say
vinegar.
They've said numerous things. First, I have to say this. First, Baz, I really hate that you discriminated against my love of bat soup and ramen noodles, you fucktard. But I still love you. Also, I have to get into a certain thing that you touched on lightly. Um, and that's the thing that when you went on and you were talking about uh, community, that there is positivity that I see. And it is thinking about the we, not the me. And we have become, in the West, a me centered thing. And what you and our mutual brother do on the beaches of Ibiza, please keep that to yourself because Spain, they don't need more tourists. Um, I hope to be there with you soon. But when I was flying over to visit with you guys over in Ibiza, the hippie girls, I guess, didn't want any more Americans over there. So, my wife wouldn't have been pleased with me.
You were getting off.
I just, you know, I like them hairy, but they just didn't want me to see them with their dreadlocks. Damn it. The
Fingers in your ears, la 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 la
fa la 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 la. No, in all honesty, man, I see these points, and I really think that needs to be pushed more. That humans need to be how they are and who they are. Social distancing, I guess, that's a good thing, but I also think that can be a negative thing in the long run, because the intimacy of family, of friends, is something to be treasured. And the intimacy, quote unquote, it's not the same. If you're thinking intimacy as, I got to put my dick inside somebody, that's not the reality of it. The intimacy of fellowship, of talking to people, that's being open and honest. And I think that is the casualty of this, with this social distancing. But like you said, Baz, and like you've said, Kate, we're seeing it open up in different ways online. And it's causing more people to think, which isn't necessarily a bad thing. But it also causes people to go down rabbit holes. And there is so much misinformation out there. And the media is the biggest pusher of it now. And that's a problem. And with Kate's recipe, remember the old adage, we three kings be stealing the gold. It goes back to those days. And, I always point to a certain movie that was made about the Gulf War with Clooney in it. And that's actually based off a real event. Most people don't know that, but it was called Three Kings. And it has Ice Cube in it, I think. I can't remember everybody else in it. But it actually was a good film on that event. And so shit's out there, folks. Open your mind. Think about things. The Cold War to the Gulf War and on. Some people might have some institutional memory. And that's the biggest casualty, I think, is institutional memory. And I'd love to hear your... Please finish your thoughts, Kate. I didn't mean to hijack it. I just wanted to correct Baz on the beaches of Ibiza and correct him on my love of bat soup and ramen noodles. That's it.
Actually, I wasn't the one you interrupted. It was Baz, but that's okay.
Fuck you, Shuffy.
Yeah. What I'm seeing is I do not know about the rest of the world, but in the United States and North America, they are talking about living the new normal. And everyone is getting used to this new normal. And they keep adding on to this new normal. And as people, a habit is formed in 21 days. So as people are quarantined for 21 days, they are now used to the new normal. As they continue to get used to the new normal, there's going to be more additives to this new normal. Now, what happens, and I'm not saying that this is going to happen, and I'm not trying to do fear porn or anything, is what happens if our government decides that they want to quarantine us, quote unquote, a little bit longer than the new normal. In some states right now, which is probably a whole nother new show, in some states right now, they're not calling it martial law, but there's a curfew. And you can go to the grocery store, and you can go to the bank, and you can go to the doctor's office. That's it. If you're caught doing anything else, you are fined an exorbitant amount of money, $1,000 just for driving down the highway without a purpose or a reason to do so. In my small town, we are not quarantined yet. It is advised that we all stay home, but there's no quarantine in place or anything like that. But in places like California, New York, Texas, there's places all over the country that are closing their borders and saying stay at home. And if you don't stay at home, we're going to fine you. What happens during that and after that new normal, that the government has decided that, well, we want to keep it a little bit longer. We're not going to call it martial law, but we're going to call it quarantine, which is basically what they're doing is the same thing as martial law. A rose by any other name is still a rose. Your thoughts on either of you?
Well, my thoughts.
Go
on, bro. No. You go first, and I was just going to talk about my flight, but you go on, and then I'll jump on after you.
Yeah, like you were saying there, Kate, it's not necessarily martial law. We know it is, but to Joe public, it's not being called martial law. And when martial law is being, no, this is not martial law. It's not martial law. It's not enforced by the or whatever. It's enforced by some other means, and that other means is taking monetary, you know what I mean, belongings away from you, $1,000 or you know whatever, or what the severity. The places like New York and Los Angeles and things like that, again, where sort of it's more democratic than anything else. It's strange that it's not being questioned more, because these are types of places that usually, and I don't want to paint the entire state of California or the New York state as Antifa states, but it's usually like where Antifa aren't kicking off about this is martial law. It just seems to be that all that bullshit's been put aside and people are just going, they're just accepting it for what it is. You know, okay, we're being quarantined. There's the police officer outside there saying that I'm not allowed out of my house. And it can be disguised in many ways. And one of those is martial law. And I think if that normal does change, like you say, and people are quarantined for a bit longer, it is going to drive people that old adage stir crazy, where people going, this is fucking bullshit, I'm going anyway. And then there's going to be that one instance where something gets out of hand, a disagreement with law enforcement or National Guard or whoever it is, and then guns are exchanged and people die, or a person dies, and then that's when it'll be sort of a tipping point for certain communities where you will have civil unrest and things like that. And like you said earlier on, Shuffy, there's that thin veil of civility at the minute, you know, and it was starting to slip slightly when there was people walking out of the grocery stores with all these toilet rolls, and there was people walking out afterwards going, I can't get any. But there is, on the other side of the car park, this bell end with fucking 40 packs, and people were going up and going, you're going to give me a pack or I'm going to smash your head in. And there were scuffles, but not to the point where people lost lives, or that I know of. Obviously, that has happened in certain places where people have been robbed and that, but that's just type of the norm anyway. Just that type of behaviour, and I'm surprised it's not sort of grown exponentially because of the situation we're in. But again, that the thin veil of civility just manages to hold on. Let's see if it'll hold on if quarantines are lengthened and things like that. And again, a lot of people are sort of all the eggs in one basket and saying, hopefully by Easter, this thing's going to be under control. I know it's been said in the UK. I know Trump's on about opening businesses and airlines and the economy again, Wall Street, for Easter because of the impact not only to our economy, but the impact to people's, and it's a big one these days, is mental health. And mental health comes all in different guises. You lock people up for so long, take them out of the routine, and for some people it's just too much, especially when they have a multitude of children, and there's a routine broken there, that all of a sudden you've got a young mother with no male figure in her house, or with a male figure, he might be a completely useless fucking father or a partner, and all of a sudden then she's got all these three people in there, all demanding the attention, all demanding that's done this, and her mental health is going to suffer. Or maybe a young student whose mental health will suffer because he's now been told that he can't leave his room, and he might, a billion and one different scenarios. Again, let's see how that holds up with these lengthened quarantines, and I think that's why a lot of the governments are looking at trying to get this under control quickly, and testing the waters round about Easter, relaxing some of these quarantines and these lockdowns and such. It'll be interesting to see. Your thoughts?
Well,
what I'm also looking at is our country is letting inmates, they're letting criminals that are in prison, they're letting them go.
Yes, Kate, you're right.
Drug dealers, and I'm not saying child molesters because I haven't heard that one yet, but they are federal inmates and state inmates. They are being set free because of this, quote, virus, unquote. That I do not understand.
I do, because it's destabilization. I completely understand it. I wish I didn't understand it as well as I do. This is normalization and destabilization at the same time. This is classic ops. This is what, bread and butter is made on. The point is, I'll give an example. Just a flight that I took to meet up with Baz and our mutual brother. As I was going to Ibiza, everything's fine, and then all of a sudden they close their border. Well, it was because Trump, it was tit for tat. Trump closed their border for them to come in. I was looking forward to going to Ibiza, Here's the point. I mean, I was going to meet up with brothers, and we were going to go camping. It was that innocuous. It boggles the mind that for some reason, nation states are sealing their borders out of spite. And when the East, and I mean the Far East and the East, the Near East, and also the Russian East, it's the gateway to the East. When all these folks are focused and now looking and seeing how we react and how to, basically, if a war were to erupt, here's the way, okay, with this last bill that was put in to effect, to get people to stay in their house and normalize it for 21 days. This is my thoughts, and only my thoughts, but I think they're based in reality. Maybe not. It is for you to decide. But my thoughts on this. You now have people getting unemployment at outrageous numbers because of the forced, I want to call it internment. I don't give a fuck. When I came back from traveling over there, on my old phone, CDC somehow miraculously knew I traveled there. And I get this message. You've gone to this country and you came back. Dude, I didn't even get to enter into the country. My passport's not stamped. I didn't go in the country. I was in the fucking airport. I flew over first class. So it was not a problem for me. I had 12 feet of nobody around me. So if somebody would have coughed in first class, it was so rare. But everybody was trying to come back. We're talking embassies. We're trying to come back to America. With kids. Motherfuck, that was a nightmare flight. And because they can't upgrade you on your return trip if it's not scheduled. They can't put you back in first class. So I'm in coach with, I'll never forget, a couple of the kids coughing, running around, shitting their pants, whatever. That shit's in the air, and they say, well, Delta Airlines was like, we recirculate everything every 3 minutes. Well, you know, what's that steaming pile of shit diaper? How's that traveling through that fucking aluminum tin cabin? That kid coughing in 3 minutes, is that getting decontaminated? No. The parents didn't even give a fuck. And these were embassy kids. I'm not fucking with you. I thought it was hilarious. Because I'm like, I'm more exposed going back home than I was going to camp. That's the retardation of this shit. And, you know, I had my Lysol can. You know, I have my travel Lysols. Baz saw them, and so did our brother. You know, I had no problems. And I still don't think I have any problems. But it is bacteriological, because even my doctor, he's the one who joked with me, and we've talked about this either offline within each other or online. I can't remember, but if you've never heard this before, it is a fact. In Afghanistan in 2018, I came up with a bacterial lung infection that my doctor, who said, Shuff, I've had dipsy fever, all these kind of things. And he said you had every disease that starts with D but death. And, you know, Dr. Richardson's a great dude. Love that dude. Anyways, the point is, I'm like, I've had this lung thing for a long time now. And it just boggles my mind. I think you're right, Kate, that it is bacteriological. But I think it's been going around a lot longer than the Chinese and everybody has been willing to say. And I think this is a destabilization op. And just my 2 cents, because from the sound of it, you know, the thing is, if you're coughing, they've said this, if it's a dry cough, you're not expurgating some sort of phlegm, you know, the lung butter that we like to swallow back down because it tastes so good. All this shit. If you're not, young lung butter, gotta love it. If you're not getting that out, that means you're drowning in your own fucking shit. And that's a reality. And people need to realize the symptoms, you know, the high fever, the dizziness, never had any of that weird shit. If I started experiencing it, then I'd be like, okay, I got the COVID. But I'll tell you another thing that was funny. You were talking about shit roll, toilet roll. This was really hilarious. I went to Walmart one night to grab something. I can't remember what it was. It was nothing. And as I go in, there's some dude standing by the door. Like a drug deal. It was fucking hilarious. Dude comes up to me. He's like, yo, you need some toilet paper? I was like, huh? How much? And he goes, $25. I get the roll full. And I'm like, oh, what is it, the Charmin? He's like, yeah, the Charmin, man. That's what I got. And I'm like, where that? Out in the car? I'm like, well, talk to me in about 2 weeks. Maybe I might need it then. But I know I won't. But it was like a shady drug deal. This motherfucker in front of fucking Walmart that probably sold him the Charmin toilet paper. and he's trying to fucking sell it to me. It's fucking retarded.
Yeah, it's like as you said there, okay, entrepreneurship, isn't it? If somebody's fucking stupid enough to buy it for $25, then fill the boots. But it's when shops are doing it, when the stores are doing it, that's when it becomes shady. And we're lucky over here. We've actually had people again using the power of social media to name and shame certain establishments that are doing it, and it's usually the smaller shops, the smaller corner shops that are doing it. And there's actually a national hotline that you can ring if someone's like selling a bottle of hand sanitizer, one of those small pocket-sized bottles of hand sanitizer for like $100 or something like that. There's a phone number you can ring, and then obviously these agents go down and fucking swoop in and say, "Stop being a cunt. There's a big fine," and cease your trading. But I like how the Danish have done it to stop like all this panic buying. You can buy, let's say, disinfectant. They said the disinfectant stays at the normal price. So one bottle of disinfectant might cost $3. To buy the second bottle is $95. So that's how they've dealt with it. And their government has gone, we're happy with that because it'll stop all the fucking idiocy that we've seen in the United Kingdom, that we've seen in Germany, that we've seen in the United States. And they've not been hit by it because the government said, you'll buy your normal amount. You don't buy 10 things of disinfectant, you buy one. And then you come back and buy another day or whatever, and so that's how they've dealt with it, and they've not had any issues. But again, hopefully it'll sort itself out.
Well, see,
fingers crossed before Easter, because somebody needs to get on a plane.
Well, see, here's the whole thing. I'll say is I was internally. You take surgical gloves and you use the fingers and you make capsules and you swallow these capsules. Well, I had the Purell. Brother, when we were going camping, I was internally smuggling Purell. I had a couple of the capsules break. My shit was clear and clean. I couldn't believe it, man. I didn't OD from the Purell, but I had the perfect Purell swallowed. And, dude, I was internal smuggling. My intestines are fucking pristine with Purell. You know what I'm saying, my nigga?
Hi, my nigga.
Oh, my goodness.
You shoot for shiny shits.
Oh, I had one internal glove that I swallowed was Golden Slaga. So, yeah, I did have some gold in my shit.
No, we've hit a lot of good points in this one, and I think what we've just got to remember is that there is things going on in the background, that we might not hear about, we might not see, or things that we are seeing, but they're so far down on our ladder of sort of concern that we're just ignoring them. I think it's important that we don't ignore them, that we look into them further. But on the flip side is recognise the good things that are going to come out of this, that the fact that we can work together as a community, not just within our communities, but as a whole. But I think one thing that should happen is, and it's becoming more sort of like clearer now, that karma does play a role in this. Like the fairy that went into the toilets and licked the toilet seat, and then all of a sudden has been diagnosed with corona. In my eyes, that person has gone out of their way to contract corona. They should not be given medical attention. That medical attention then should be slid to the left or to the right to an elderly person that needs it more than some fucking Fruit Loop that's going to lick the toilet seat. In my eyes, you don't deserve. What you're doing now is you're putting other people's lives at risk, not just those that you've been around, but then the life of a healthcare expert that could probably save 100 other lives rather than yours because you've been stupid enough to fucking lick a toilet seat. You know what I mean? Like the clown that went into the store and licked all the feminine hygiene products. That was being done for domestic terror. Unfucking lucky. That's bioterrorism 101. You know what I mean? You're spreading a disease on purpose. to harm others.
Hey,
So
I'm
I
hearing
think
this
karma
hatred.
should be allowed to play a bigger role.
All I'm hearing is hatred right now from you,
Say what?
Baz. Because I'll tell you, I love to lick the handles of fucking bass carts or what you call trolleys at Kroger's. It's just my thing, and I think you're fucking.
It's your thing.
I think you're
I'm a bigot.
you're putting you're a bigot.
I
You're shaming me for my proclivity.
I think I can draw the line at toilet seats. I think, if you want to lick door handles and trolley handles and stuff like that, you know what? More power to you. Go for it there, chef. But I think I can draw the line at toilet seats. I have a composting toilet and I keep everything pristinely clean and sanitized. And I wouldn't put my mouth down there.
Me either.
That's like enjoy that door handle. It might taste like sanitizer, but yeah, yum.
Anyways, we'll wrap this bad boy up. Hey, folks, hopefully you got some humor out of this shit. I mean, we're talking deep topics. Kate, I want you to finish what you were going to say, and then I'll tell you guys before Baz has to scoot. I know he's got things to do in Ibiza. I know, Baz, you're living the life of Brian. And unfortunately, you guys got quarantined for 14 days. So hopefully, you got there right before me. Hopefully that passes quickly. And I know spending time around people is always hard when it's forced like that. But I know you're with great people that are awesome. I'll see you soon. Here's the point, though, is Kate, finish your thing, and I'll tell about my violation of the law, because I don't give a fuck.
Actually, I was done saying what I was going to say. I just appreciate you allowing me to sit on your big orange couch with Baz. And I'm so glad that you got over the cold this morning.
Oh, that you just blew shade and hate, but I still love you. All right, Sister 95 Bravo. All right, Baz, wrap what you want to say, and then I'll tell about my criminal activities.
Yeah, just again, thanks for having me on the orange couch. Everybody listening, stay safe. Wash your hands, you dirty pigs. That's me done. I will speak to you guys some other time. Baz out.
Outstanding. And I will tell you guys about my criminal activities. If Kate's the only one here, she'll be able to laugh about it. You know about my Winchester and myself. The Winchester, or it's not a Winchester, it's a Rossi 357-38 rifle. Right. And my owner-operated fuck-up that I broke the loading gate on it. Well, I took it to a friend of mine's, and he was fixing it before I left to go to Ibiza, and it's super hilarious. I get back after being told and getting the CDC warning, oh, you got to self-quarantine. Yeah, okay. I'll self-quarantine. But my bro calls me up and says, hey, it's fixed. And I love this man. So he had no issues. I said, I'll give you that money for it, and I'll spray that money down with my Lysol. And you get it, and do you have some rounds for this thing and that thing? He's like, yeah. And I said, well, I'll put that money in there and spray that shit down too. So I did non-essential movement. I broke the law in Ohio. And I'm happy to do it. And got that fucking gun right back, and it's been made. I'll tell you what. This gun functions perfectly, and super happy to have it back. And my son bought this for me a couple years back, and for Christmas, and I'm glad to have it back in my hot little hands, functional. It was a single shot, now it can, I can load it on Sunday and shoot it till Saturday and get some rabbit with it. So
good for you.
I'm all happy. And Kate, I'm glad you're still here. I know Baz had to bounce. You know, Ibiza's calling. It's probably bar hours now. So they're all heading out. And what's that?
It's the naked women on the beach. You can't miss that.
Well, maybe. I don't know. I don't know what they're experiencing because we was camping. So, I know they had to get a beach house and have an address to be under quarantine. So I was going to head there too and quarantine with them. But it's all good in the hood. And hopefully, I hope everybody gets the humor that we're putting in this because honestly, listen to more humor. Some Opie and Anthony. Listen to Patrice O'Neill, the best comic ever. Sad the world took him too soon. And just super funny guy. Some Nick DiPaolo. You got Matt and Shane's Secret Podcast. You know, I'll probably end up doing a podcast that's going to be secret, and I'll just put it on Patreon, or I'll put it on Subscribestar, like I have my channel on it. I did a podcast last night with Drew Lima. Good dude. Known him for a while. It's uploading now. So you'll hear this after that uploads. And it's always a pleasure, Kate and Baz, to have you on and sitting on my big orange couch. And at this time, I'll tell you all this one thing. I'm slowly rolling up the drawbridge. It'll take enough time that you'll be able to finish your coffee, tea, soda, and adult libation as you've entered and are leaving now Kaiser's Castle. With that being said, shuff out.